Welcome to our channel. Today, we bring you news that weighs heavy on the heart. Some truly remarkable people have recently left this world. In this video, we will share their stories, their legacy, their final chapters. As a sign of remembrance and in support of their memory, please subscribe, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your simple action can help others hear their stories and keep their memory alive. We won't delay any longer. Let's begin this tribute to those we've lost. On May 1, 2025, in Santa Fe, New Mexico, the world bid farewell to Caroline Ruth Delacroix, a groundbreaking American visual artist, sculptor, and activist whose bold interpretations of identity, trauma, and cultural memory forever changed the shape of modern art. She passed away in the adobe home where she had once crafted her first clay figures, surrounded by brushstrokes, unfinished canvases, and the desert light that had always given her peace. Caroline was born on October 22, 1952, in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Her father was a jazz trumpeter turned postal clerk, and her mother a seamstress and quilt maker who traced stories into cloth with her needle. Their home was small but brimming with rhythm and color. Caroline grew up surrounded by the hum of music, the texture of fabric scraps, and the whispered resilience of a family who had lived through Jim Crow and kept creating beauty anyway. At age 9, Caroline began sculpting figures out of river clay. Mostly women, often wounded, always watching. She said later, "I didn't know it was art. I thought I was just helping them speak." When she was 12, a house fire destroyed most of their belongings, including her early drawings. She never fully recovered from the loss, but she said it taught her that impermanence was part of art's honesty. Caroline earned a scholarship to the Rhode Island School of Design, where she studied sculpture and installation art. There, she met her lifelong mentor, Dr. Lillian Cho, a Korean-American artist who pushed her to incorporate her own history into her work. Caroline's early pieces were quiet, cracked porcelain torsos with handwritten letters carved into their backs. But by the mid-80s, her voice exploded in scale and force. In 1984, her installation The Weight of Her Silence, a massive suspended sculpture of a faceless woman constructed from rusted bed frames, cotton, and braided hair, shook the art world. It debuted at the Whitney Biennial and was later acquired by the Smithsonian. Critics called it a revolution in spatial empathy. That same year, she became the youngest artist to win the National Endowment for the Arts Visual Fellowship for transforming personal history into collective reckoning. Over the next 4 decades, Caroline challenged institutions with works that were unapologetically political and viscerally intimate. Her 1993 series Wounds You Can't Frame, exhibited in Berlin, featured sculptures of children's shoes cast in molten bronze, each engraved with the story of a disappeared child from conflict zones across the world. It was this work that earned her the 1994 International Human Rights in Art Award from the United Nations Cultural Council. But Caroline's influence was not confined to museums. In 2001, she founded ClaySpeak, a traveling program that brought sculpture workshops to prisons, shelters, and inner-city schools across 15 states. Through hands-on creation, she helped thousands of marginalized individuals reclaim narratives they had been denied. Her favorite saying to her students was, "If they don't give you a canvas, carve your name into stone." Caroline faced her share of personal and artistic challenges. In the early 2000s, several of her works were removed from public collections for their graphic depiction of trauma. Funding dried up. Some critics labeled her work too raw, too loud, too female. She responded, "Art that doesn't rupture is just decoration. I'm not here for wallpaper." Her private life was a study in contradictions. She married photographer Gabriel Ayers in 1988. They divorced after 11 years but remained close collaborators. Their daughter, Soleil, became a filmmaker, often incorporating her mother's sculptures into her work. Caroline's home was filled with rescued animals, stacks of charcoal drawings, and an old turntable that played nothing but Coltrane and Nina Simone. She was known to be fiercely loyal, often taking in young artists who had no other place to stay. She taught without pretense, laughed loudly, and had a habit of talking to her sculptures as she worked, asking them gently, "Are you ready to be seen?" Her most quoted lines include, "Truth is not sharp. It is heavy. You don't have to explain pain to marble. It already knows. Art doesn't need permission to exist, only courage." In her final years, Caroline was diagnosed with a rare form of bone cancer. Even as her strength waned, she continued working. Her final piece, still holding, was a life-size sculpture of a hand gripping an unbloomed flower. It was installed permanently outside the Santa Fe Institute of Art, where she had taught for over 20 years. Her last interview was broadcast just weeks before her death. She sat beneath a fig tree in her courtyard, wrapped in a hand-dyed shawl, and said, "I think we spend our lives stitching the torn parts of others. If I did that with clay, even just a little, then I'm okay to go." Caroline Ruth Delacroix left behind not just memories, but an entire era embodied in her writings, ideas, and students. On May 1, 2025, in Chicago, Illinois, the world lost Malcolm Everett Klein, a renowned American economist, author, and policy architect, whose theories on inclusive growth and fiscal justice reshaped the fabric of modern economic thinking. He passed away in the same city, where he had delivered his very first university lecture, as a young professor, nearly 5 decades earlier. Malcolm was born on March 6, 1946, in Dayton, Ohio. His mother, Gloria Klein, was a public school teacher who believed books were sacred. His father, Everett Klein, worked on an assembly line at a local auto plant. Malcolm grew up in a tight-knit black neighborhood where borrowed sugar and shared stories were forms of currency. His family's dinner table was often the setting for passionate debates on inequality, war, and the American dream. That early exposure to economic struggle and social dialogue would become the moral spine of his life's work. At the age of 16, Malcolm won a statewide essay contest with a piece titled "Money is Not Math," which earned him a scholarship to the University of Michigan. There, he majored in economics and political science, finding inspiration in the writings of John Maynard Keynes and James Baldwin. He went on to complete his PhD at Princeton, where he wrote a controversial dissertation arguing that traditional GDP metrics failed to measure real quality of life. In 1978, he joined the University of Chicago as an assistant professor, one of the first Black tenure-track faculty in the department. His early work focused on what he called structural silence, the overlooked costs borne by poor and marginalized communities in macroeconomic policy. In 1983, he published The Invisible Ledger, a book that exposed how tax policy disproportionately affected urban Black families. Though initially dismissed by conservative scholars, the book was later heralded as a generation's economic conscience. His research gained wide attention, and in 1992, Malcolm was appointed senior economic advisor to the Congressional Joint Committee on Taxation. There, he proposed the Community Growth Act, a now landmark piece of legislation that directed billions in federal grants to underdeveloped urban zones. That same year, he received the John Bates Clark Medal, the United States' second highest honor in economics, for redefining the role of equity in fiscal modeling. Malcolm's influence stretched far beyond academia. He was a frequent guest on national news panels, where he spoke with clarity and conviction about wage stagnation, redlining, and the moral cost of austerity. Yet he remained a teacher at heart. For over 30 years, he taught introductory economics at the University of Chicago, often starting lectures by asking, What would this graph look like if it included your mother's grocery bill? He founded the Civic Economics Institute in 2005, a nonprofit dedicated to producing public accessible research for policymakers, teachers, and community organizers. His lectures and white papers became key tools in grassroots advocacy campaigns, especially in housing reform and healthcare equity. Despite his accolades, Malcolm was no stranger to hardship. In the late 1980s, he was denied tenure at a rival institution after publishing a critique of the IMF's lending practices, a decision that nearly derailed his career. He later revealed in interviews that the rejection had sent him into a deep depression, during which he nearly left academia altogether. What saved him, he said, was a single letter from a former student who wrote, "You taught me that numbers are never neutral, so I stayed." In his personal life, Malcolm was both quiet and deeply principled. He married sociologist Patricia Eldridge in 1975. Their marriage endured both intense professional schedules and the tragic loss of their first son, Julian, to leukemia in 1984. Together, they raised two daughters, Elise and Naomi, who both pursued careers in public service. At home, Malcolm was meticulous. He clipped newspaper articles, cataloged vinyl jazz records, and wrote in longhand. He never owned a smartphone. He found peace in baking sourdough bread and reading poetry late into the night. Colleagues remember how he always brought a pocket watch to lectures, saying, "Time, like capital, is only useful when respected." His legacy lives on in the countless students he mentored, many of whom now shape public policy, teach at top universities, and lead social justice initiatives across the world. Among his most quoted lines were, "Every budget is a moral document. Growth without dignity is theft. The economy is not a machine, it's a mirror." In his final years, Malcolm was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. Though his memory began to slip, he continued teaching through voice recordings, recorded interviews, and handwritten notes, often left for his colleagues and students in faculty mailboxes. His final public appearance was at a panel titled "The Future of Economic Fairness," where he said softly, "Numbers are not our masters. They are our servants, if we remember whom they should serve." He passed away just before dawn, as light began to touch the bookshelves of his home study. Malcolm Everett Klein left behind not just memories, but an entire era embodied in his writings, ideas, and students. David Kenneth Harbour was born on the 10th of April 1975 in White Plains, New York, United States. He entered the world to Kenneth and Nancy Riley Harbour, both of whom worked in real estate, his mother in residential properties and his father in commercial ventures. From the earliest days, his family home was one where diligence and empathy were valued equally, and where the young boy learned that imagination and hard work could flourish side by side. Growing up in suburban Westchester County, David was drawn to any opportunity to perform. In elementary school, he memorized book reports and recited poetry at assemblies, convincing teachers that the classroom stage was as natural to him as any theatrical platform. His parents, recognizing a spark in their son, encouraged his participation in church pageants and local talent shows, driving him to rehearsals and applauding every small triumph. By the time he entered Byram Hills High School in Armonk, New York, he had already become a fixture in the drama club and the school choir, where he explored voice projection and character work alongside classmates who would themselves pursue acting careers. At Byram Hills, David balanced rigorous coursework with afternoons spent in the auditorium, honing his craft through a steady rotation of Shakespeare scenes and musical numbers. His drama teacher noted his uncanny ability to inhabit both comedic and tragic roles, while his peers admired his generosity in helping others perfect their soliloquies. Though he excelled academically, particularly in English literature and history, it was on stage that he felt most alive, crafting nuanced characters and testing the boundaries of his vocal and emotional range. It was during these formative high school years that he first understood the actor's dual obligation to self-discovery and to the audience's engagement. Upon graduating in 1993, David pursued higher education at Dartmouth College in Hanover, New Hampshire, where he majored in drama and Italian and joined the Sigma Phi Epsilon fraternity. The liberal arts environment of Dartmouth allowed him to study a diverse array of theatrical traditions, from commedia dell'arte to modern ensemble work, and to travel with the college's touring troupe. There, he performed in student-led productions ranging from Chekhovian sketches to original devised pieces, deepening his understanding of character motivation and collaborative storytelling. His academic advisors observed that he approached every assignment, whether a term paper on 16th-century drama or a scene study of Arthur Miller's work, with equal passion and discipline. From 1994 through 1997, David honed his talents with the theater at Monmouth at Cumston Hall in Monmouth, Maine, performing in Shakespearean productions including The Tempest, Much Ado About Nothing, The Winter's Tale, and Hamlet. These rigorous summer seasons challenged him to master Elizabethan language and to project both voice and presence across large, unamplified stages. The rural Maine audiences rewarded his commitment with standing ovations, and critics began to note the clarity and emotional depth of his interpretations. It was in these winding halls and barn-converted theaters that he cultivated the stamina and versatility that would later define his professional career. Upon earning his Bachelor of Arts in 1997, Harbour relocated to New York City with the ambition of breaking into professional theater and television. He supported himself with odd jobs, bartending, waiting tables, and ushering at off-Broadway venues, while attending open auditions and networking relentlessly. In 1999, he made his Broadway debut in the revival of The Rainmaker, marking his transition from ensemble roles to a presence on New York's premier stage. Later that same season, he earned a Tony Award nomination for his portrayal of Nick in a revival of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, a testament to both his emotional intelligence and his command of classical text. These early milestones confirmed that his dedication to craft and willingness to take creative risks would sustain him through the inevitable uncertainties of an acting career. Simultaneously, Harbour made his television debut on Law and Order in 1999, playing a waiter in a single-episode arc. Over the following decade, he appeared in multiple installments of the Law and Order franchise, portraying characters ranging from disturbed suspects to grieving family members. He built a reputation as a reliable character actor, bringing subtlety and nuance to roles in series such as Law and Order, Special Victims Unit, Hack, The Unit, and Pan Am. Each guest appearance sharpened his technical proficiency, matching eye lines, hitting comedic beats, and adapting stage instincts to the intimate demands of the camera. These foundational screen experiences laid the groundwork for his later television breakthroughs. Harbour's foray into feature films began with supporting parts in major studio releases, including a de facto cameo in Brokeback Mountain 2005, a memorable turn as Shep Campbell in Revolutionary Road 2008, and a gritty portrayal in Black Mass 2015. He also appeared in The Green Hornet, End of Watch, and Between Us, each time demonstrating a capacity to anchor his characters in lived reality. While these roles varied in screen time, his performances consistently drew praise for their authenticity and for the unexpected gravitas he brought to secondary figures. Industry observers took notice that he was an actor capable of enhancing any ensemble cast with minimal fanfare. On the small screen, he secured recurring roles in The Newsroom 2012 to 2014, where he portrayed Newsweek executive Elliot Hirsch, and in the first season of Manhattan 2014, playing Dr. Reed Akeley. Each series placed him in high-pressure narrative contexts, journalistic rigor in one, atomic age scientist drama in the other, and he navigated these complex environments with a balance of intensity and internalized restraint. His television resume, now spanning dramatic, procedural, and period fare, showcased an actor versatile enough to move seamlessly between genres while retaining a recognizable screen presence. The pivotal turning point arrived in 2015, when David was cast as Chief Jim Hopper in the Netflix science fiction horror series Stranger Things, which premiered in 2016. As the world-weary but determined lawman of Hawkins, Indiana, he infused Hopper with both paternal vulnerability and the hard-edged resolve required to face otherworldly threats. Critics lauded his ability to weave humor into tense moments, and audiences worldwide embraced his performances, propelling him to a Critics' Choice Television Award and nominations for 2 Primetime Emmy Awards. His nuanced portrayal of Hopper's redemption arc resonated deeply, earning him recognition as a leading dramatic actor on the global streaming stage. By the conclusion of Stranger Things' second season, David Harbour had firmly established himself as a force in both television and film. His portrayal of Jim Hopper had captured the attention of millions, solidifying his reputation for bringing complex emotional truths to genre storytelling. Although his career was already ascending and he remained in demand for major cinematic roles, his peak of worldwide fame, spanning blockbuster films, major awards and high-profile endorsements, lay just over the horizon. In that moment, when both critics and audiences had taken stock of his artistry, but before the thunder of global popularity would resound, he stood as a testament to the power of perseverance, the importance of continuous learning, and the transformative potential of authentic performance. In looking back, one recognizes that his early journey left an indelible imprint on modern entertainment, and that his life and work had already woven themselves into the cultural fabric, ensuring his contributions would be remembered with profound respect and gratitude.